My brother called me a joke with no future. At the wedding, Mom laughed too. I just raised my glass, moved out, and 2 years later they begged me to come back. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my brother Nathan's life, his wedding day. The garden was lit with soft fairy lights, laughter spilled from every table, and champagne flowed like water. I stood near the back, holding a half-empty glass and watching the man of the hour bask in praise. Nathan had always been the family star, successful, charming, magnetic in that effortless way that made people forget his sharp edges. I was the opposite. Quiet. A little awkward. The one who skipped college and dabbled in dead-end jobs, always figuring things out. When he tapped his glass during the reception, signaling his speech, I didn't expect much. A few corny lines, maybe a joke about married life. What I got instead was a performance. He began with the usual. I want to thank everyone who made today possible. But then his gaze drifted to me, and something in his smile changed. And of course, my older brother Eric, he said. The man who always taught me what not to do with my life. Seriously, folks, if you ever need a case study in wasted potential, Eric's your guy. There was laughter. Not the polite kind. The real kind. Rippling across the tables like he just dropped a killer punchline. And then, he said it. A joke with no future. I froze. I waited for someone, anyone, to step in, to change the subject, to say that was too far. But no. My mother tilted her head back and laughed. Hard. In that moment, I realized something bone deep and undeniable. This wasn't a joke. This was how they saw me. How they always had. So I did the only thing I could think to do. I raised my glass. I smiled. And I drank. Then, without a word, I left the reception. Left the town. Left the family. And I didn't look back. The drive out of town felt like shedding skin. My phone buzzed a few times, probably texts asking where I went, but I ignored them. I wasn't angry. Not in the way people expected. It was more like I had finally received a diagnosis after years of subtle symptoms. I rented a cheap room in a city I'd never been to before. No connections. No past. Just me, a duffel bag, and a borrowed laptop. The first few weeks were rough. I worked nights at a warehouse and slept during the day. But somewhere between lifting crates and collapsing into bed, I made a decision. I was going to prove them wrong, not with words or empty promises, but with results. With silence. With distance. By day, I studied everything I could about e-commerce, logistics, and digital marketing. I watched videos, took free courses, and slowly started experimenting. I launched a tiny online shop with nothing but clearance items and clever copywriting. And it worked. Not wildly, not at first, but enough to show me I wasn't stupid. I wasn't useless. I just hadn't found my way yet. I didn't party. I didn't date. I didn't even call old friends. My world was a 10-block radius and a blinking screen. I reinvested every dollar. Tinkered. Failed. Rebuilt. And the craziest thing? I started to love it. Not just the success that began to come, but the independence. The quiet. The fact that, for the first time, I decided who I was. 2 years passed. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message that stopped me cold. It was from Nathan. Hey. Can we talk? It's about Mom. I stared at Nathan's message longer than I cared to admit. Not because I didn't know how to respond, but because I didn't know if I wanted to. 2 years. No contact. No apologies. Just this sudden, vague text. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I searched his name. It didn't take long to see the cracks. His company, the Golden Child's Prize startup, had gone under. Investors pulled out. Lawsuits were pending. Apparently, genius doesn't protect you from bad decisions. And Mom? A deeper dig turned up foreclosure notices. A second mortgage gone sour. She'd co-signed one of Nathan's loans, of course she had, and now she was drowning in debt. The perfect family I'd left behind? It was crumbling. When I finally answered, I kept it simple. What's going on? Nathan replied within minutes. His tone was humble, too humble. I messed up. We need help. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. We. They still grouped themselves together like I wasn't separate. Like I hadn't vanished and rebuilt my life from nothing. A week later, I got another message, this one from Mom. Just a single line. Please, Eric. I'm sorry. Funny how fast a joke with no future turns into our last hope. I didn't answer that one at all. Not yet. I decided I would go back, but not for them. For me. Not to forgive. Not to reconcile. Just to see their faces when the man they dismissed walked in wearing everything they thought he'd never be. Success, composure, dignity. Power. I booked a one-way flight and packed light. Just the essentials, and one tailored suit. Navy blue. Crisp lines. The kind you wear when you're not asking for respect, you're assuming it. On the plane, I drafted nothing. No speeches. No dramatic declarations. I didn't need them. The power wasn't in what I'd say, it was in how little I needed to. I rented a black car with tinted windows and pulled up to Mom's place on a Saturday morning. The grass was overgrown. The paint on the porch peeled like old regret. I rang the doorbell once. When she opened it, I barely recognized her. Thinner. Tired. But her eyes lit up like she still believed she could play mother again. Eric, she said, voice trembling. You look incredible. I didn't hug her. I didn't smile. I just nodded once and stepped inside. Nathan was already there, sitting on the couch in a worn-out hoodie, laptop open and bags under his eyes. He looked up and froze, as if seeing a ghost in Armani. No one spoke for a long moment. Then I said the only thing I'd prepared. Let's talk. We sat in the living room like strangers forced into an awkward reunion. The coffee table between us was cluttered with unopened mail, legal letters, and a chipped mug with "World's Best Mom" fading on the side. Nathan cleared his throat. I know I owe you an apology. For what I said at the wedding. I was joking. You weren't, I interrupted. My voice was calm, even. And it wasn't just a joke. It was a reveal. He looked down. Good. Mom shifted in her seat. Honey, we were all caught up in the celebration. Things were said. No, I said, turning toward her. You laughed, Mom. That wasn't heat of the moment. That was how you really felt. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Silence is funny like that. When you stop trying to fill it, it makes people squirm. Nathan finally leaned forward, elbows on knees, all false sincerity. Look, I know things went too far. And I know I messed up with the business. We're in trouble. I just thought maybe you could help. Invest. Temporarily. Just until we get back on our feet. He used the word invest, like I hadn't seen the collapse online myself. Like I didn't know his debts were deeper than he could crawl out of. Like he still thought he could sell me something. I chuckled. You want me to save the empire that threw me out like a defective part? He flinched, but I didn't stop. You called me a joke, Nathan. In front of 200 people. And you, I said, turning back to Mom, clapped. I made mistakes, she said softly. You made patterns, I replied. Big difference. They both looked cornered, not by rage, but by my restraint. And that was the point. I wasn't yelling. I didn't need to. I'd come with facts and distance. Not emotion. You want my help? I said finally. All right. Here's what I can offer. Nathan leaned in like a starving man. Mom's eyes widened. For a second, hope flickered between them. I can pay off the house, I said. Put it in my name. You'll both have 60 days to find somewhere else to go. Nathan's mouth opened. Wait, what? I can't invest in your business, Nathan. Because I'm not interested in failing brands. I don't do bailouts. I do mergers. And I don't merge with people who mock me. Mom's voice cracked. You'd really take the house from your own family? You already took everything from me, I said. This is just rebalancing the scales. Nathan stood. You came here to gloat. Not help. No, I said, rising slowly, adjusting my cufflinks. I came here so you'd understand. The man you laughed at built something without you. And he doesn't need you. That's what you were never ready for. They were quiet. No comebacks. No last shots. I walked to the door. 60 days. After that, the locks change. I opened it, sunlight pouring through like a curtain lifting. I looked over my shoulder once more. I hope one day you understand what it's like to be underestimated, I said. Because that was the fuel. That was the beginning. And this silence you're sitting in now, is the end. And with that I left. The door clicked shut behind me like the final page of a book slamming closed. I didn't look back. Not once. Not even when I heard Mom's faint voice call my name through the crack of the screen door. I got in the car, pulled away from that broken porch, and didn't let my foot off the gas until the city was a blur in my rearview. That silence I'd left behind? It echoed louder than any argument ever could. And for the first time in years I felt unburdened. I checked into a hotel on the outskirts of town. Something about returning to the city made me feel like I needed neutral ground, close enough to oversee the fallout, far enough not to be pulled back in. That night, I sat on the balcony overlooking a rusted parking lot, my phone glowing in my hand. There were messages. Voicemails from Mom. Some pleading. Some angry. All irrelevant. A text from Nathan, "You're not as different from us as you think." That one made me laugh. Because he was right, in a way. I'd inherited their resilience. Their pride. But not their entitlement. He still didn't understand that the most dangerous kind of person isn't the one with revenge in their heart. It's the one who no longer cares about the fight. I forwarded their financial records to my legal team the next morning. Property transfer paperwork. A buyout clause with a grace period, 60 days, no exceptions. My lawyer, a sharp-as-nails woman named Dina, glanced up after reading the files and asked, "Are you sure you want to do this?" "I already did it," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "This kind of move, it's surgical. You're cutting off the limb and cauterizing the wound." "Exactly." Dina smiled faintly. "Good. About time someone taught them the cost of underestimating quiet men." In the days that followed, I visited the places I used to haunt as a younger man. The park bench by the old bookstore. The coffee shop I worked at for 6 months straight, where I'd once overheard my father say I'd probably be stuck there for life. I walked those streets with new shoes and older eyes. And everywhere I went, I carried the same quiet confidence. I had done it. Not just the business, the money, the lifestyle, but the transformation. I had shed the skin they branded me with. Turned their ridicule into rocket fuel. I didn't just survive their abandonment, I transcended it. One afternoon, while reviewing property inspection results for the house, I drove by Nathan's office building. It was dark. For lease signs slapped against the glass. I parked for a moment and stared at the reflection of my car in the windows. That building had once been a monument to his ambition. Now it was a tombstone. I didn't smile. I didn't feel joy. But I did feel peace. Peace in knowing I no longer lived in anyone's shadow. Peace in knowing my worth didn't need their recognition. I was no longer the joke. I was the punchline they never saw coming. The countdown began the same evening I left that living room, 60 days. 8.5 weeks of waiting, for them, anyway. For me, it was observation. Not revenge. Just a quiet unraveling I didn't need to narrate. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't check in. I let the timeline speak for itself. Within the first week, I saw Nathan's LinkedIn update vanish. Then came the rumors, a business partner leaking details about misused funds, a lawsuit threatening to strip him of what little remained. I didn't comment. I didn't even watch with malice. I just let it happen. Mom tried again. A voicemail at 3 a.m. "Eric, we didn't mean for things to go this far. I think about that day at the wedding a lot. We were just proud of Nathan. You have to understand." Pride. That word again. It always floated just ahead of me and my family, like a fruit on a tree I wasn't allowed to reach. By week 3, they had a sign up in the front yard, "For sale by owner." A last-ditch effort to scrape together some liquidity. But no buyers came. Word was out, the house had liens. The paperwork was moving under my control. I visited once, parked across the street at night, and watched the kitchen light flicker through the curtains. The same kitchen where I'd once made ramen for myself after skipping dinner with them because I couldn't take another night of being compared, corrected, pitted. I wondered if Nathan sat there now, staring into the past, knowing it was slipping away. I didn't feel sorry for him. Just distant. Week 5, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I usually let those go to voicemail, but something made me answer. It was Dad. Not my biological father. He died when I was a teenager, but the man Mom married afterward. The one who never called me son. "Eric," he said. "She's not well. I'm aware. She doesn't sleep. She's worried about where she's going to live. And?" He paused. "And I thought you might want to know." "I don't," I said, and ended the call. It was the truth. I didn't want to know. Because I had known, for years, what it was like to lie awake wondering where I belong. They didn't care then. Now it was their turn. By week 7, Nathan sent one last message. "Please. Just one meeting." I met him at a diner near the freeway. He looked like a shadow of the man I'd last seen, overgrown beard, pale skin, nervous energy. He sat across from me with shaking hands, stirring his coffee. "We have nowhere to go," he said. I waited. "I'm not asking for charity," he added. "Just time. A few more months. Maybe help Mom get into an apartment. I'll figure myself out." I leaned back in the booth. "You had time," I said. "All the time in the world. You just spent it mocking people you thought were beneath you. I was wrong." "No," I replied. "You were honest. That's the part you're trying to rewrite." He said nothing. I took a $10 bill from my wallet, dropped it on the table, and stood up. "Your 60 days are almost up. Get her out of the house. And you too." Nathan's voice cracked. "Eric, I'm your brother." I looked him in the eyes for the last time. "No. You were." And I walked out, sunlight at my back again, leaving him in a booth stained with coffee and consequence. The morning of the deadline arrived quiet, gray, and still. I stood across the street from the house in a sleek black coat, coffee in hand, watching the place I once called home as if it were a movie set. There were boxes on the porch. A stack of old books. Lamps wrapped in towels. I saw Nathan pacing in the driveway, speaking into his phone with frantic hand gestures. Mom sat on a lawn chair, her face drawn, wrapped in a blanket even though it wasn't cold. They didn't know I was there. I didn't want them to. I wasn't coming to save them, I came to witness. My lawyer called. "Locks will be changed by 4. Sheriff's team confirmed they'll be on standby in case of resistance. Let them know it won't be necessary," I said. "They've already surrendered. They just don't know it yet." By noon, the movers had arrived, an unmarked truck and a couple of young guys in uniforms who didn't ask questions. Nathan tried to argue with one of them. I could see the desperation in his body language, like he still couldn't believe this was happening. But it was. I walked up the sidewalk slowly, deliberately. When Nathan saw me, he stopped talking. Mom looked up. Her eyes welled, but I didn't stop. "Eric," she said. It wasn't a question. It was a plea disguised as recognition. "You should have left by now," I said. "We're almost done," Nathan muttered. I nodded. "I'll wait." I leaned against the street lamp and watched them finish. No shouting. No theatrics. Just the quiet collapse of entitlement. They loaded the last box just before 3:45 p.m. Nathan lingered at the top step, turning to look back at the door. Then he looked at me. "I thought we were family," he said. I smiled, genuinely sadly. "You thought wrong." And they left. No final hugs. No apologies. No catharsis. Just silence. At exactly 4 o'clock, the locksmith turned the new key and handed it to me. "Fresh start," he said. "No," I replied, taking the key. "Clean ending." I stepped inside alone. The house smelled like dust and old arguments. But to me, it felt different now, lighter. Emptier in the best possible way. I wasn't there to reclaim what was taken. I was there to confirm that I no longer needed it. I stood in the kitchen for a while, running my hand along the counter. The same one where Mom used to leave out dinner for Nathan and forget about me. The same counter where I left a note the night I moved out: "Thanks for everything. I'll find my own way." And I had. This wasn't revenge. This was peace, earned, hard-won, and utterly silent. I didn't move into the house. I didn't gut it or redesign it or turn it into some monument of success. I left it empty. For weeks, it sat there like a husk, still and untouched. I visited a few times, mostly to sit in the silence and remind myself that sometimes the best way to reclaim something is to simply let it be. But I knew what I wanted to do. One afternoon, I made a call to a small local nonprofit that provided transitional housing for single mothers and survivors of domestic abuse. Quietly, without headlines or speeches, I arranged for the house to be donated to them, furnished, repainted, and refitted to suit someone who needed it. The paperwork was finalized in a single envelope. I signed it in a coffee shop, slid it across the table to the program director, and stood up without ceremony. "No plaque?" she asked, half smiling. "No name on the mailbox," I replied. "That's the point. Because I hadn't come back to carve my name into the ashes of the past. I came back to make sure it burned clean, and that someone else could build something better from the space where I once felt small." That night, I walked past the house one last time. The porch light was off, but the future, whatever it was for someone else now, felt wide open. Like maybe some other kid would sit on those steps, feeling seen instead of forgotten. And that was enough. That was everything. 2 years ago, I was the family embarrassment. The one they chuckled at behind polite smiles. The one they toasted about not to. And the truth is, for a long time, I believed them. But something happened the moment I walked away from that wedding reception. I stopped waiting. For their validation. Their approval. Their apologies. I stopped waiting to be seen, and started building the life I wanted to live, not prove. They said I was a joke with no future. I became a man who doesn't need to explain his past. They laughed. And I listened. I let it echo. I let it carve out something fierce and focused inside me. Not to hurt them back, but to ensure I'd never let anyone define me again. To anyone out there still sitting at that metaphorical table, still raising a glass with a cracked smile, while someone chips away at your worth in front of a room full of people, walk away. Don't wait for the apology. Don't wait for the hug. Don't wait for the moment when they finally see you. Instead, see yourself. Because the most powerful revenge isn't loud. It's not delivered with rage or served cold. It's served silently, in peace, in freedom, and in becoming everything they said you couldn't be.